Captain Mara Vin stepped off the small ship onto the surface of the planet. The ground was rough and rocky, colored in dull oranges and reds that shimmered under the dim light of a distant sun. A thin wind blew across the barren plains, carrying fine dust that made her squint. Mara was alone, as usual on these missions, but she never minded. Being alone meant she could explore freely, without orders or restrictions. She scanned the horizon through her visor. In the distance, a large structure caught her eye, something unnatural among the jagged rocks. It was massive and partly buried under layers of sand and stone. Her heart beat faster. Explorers always dreamed of discovering lost civilizations, and Mara had stumbled upon what looked like the remnants of one. Her boots crunched against the rocky soil as she walked toward the structure. As she got closer, she realized it wasn't a ruin of a building. It was a ship. A gigantic alien ship, older than any human-made craft, yet strangely intact. Its hull was covered in strange markings and patterns that shifted subtly in the light. Even from a distance, she could feel the weight of its history. This ship had been here for millions of years, waiting silently. Mara's hands trembled slightly as she ran them over the smooth metal of the hull. It was cold, but somehow alive. Small sparks danced across the surface, like the ship was aware of her presence. Her curiosity overpowered her caution. She had trained for years to face unknown dangers, and she trusted herself. Carefully, she found a seam in the hull that suggested an entrance. She pressed her palm against a glowing panel, and it reacted instantly. A soft hum filled the air. The ground beneath her feet vibrated slightly. The ship seemed to awaken, as if it had been sleeping and she had just nudged it. Small lights flickered along its surface, forming a pattern that almost looked like eyes. Mara felt a thrill. Humans had always been explorers, and this was exactly the kind of discovery that defined her species. While other intelligent races might have avoided the unknown, humans dove in head first. She stepped inside. The air was surprisingly breathable, filtered by the ship itself. The interior was massive, more spacious than any human spacecraft she had ever seen. The walls shimmered with faint light, and strange symbols moved slowly across panels and consoles. Mara's eyes widened in wonder. She had no idea what most of it meant, but she could feel the intelligence behind it. This was a ship built by a species far older and more advanced than humanity. As she walked further, her visor scanned the environment and began translating some of the symbols into Basic, the universal language humans used in space exploration. Words appeared floating in front of her eyes. Awakened by the curious, prepare for the chosen, time is short. Mara paused. These messages were meant for someone who understood courage and curiosity. A sudden vibration ran through the floor. The ship hummed louder, and the lights intensified. Mara's heart raced. She had heard stories about ancient ships that could detect the presence of life, but she never imagined it would respond so quickly. She realized that this was no ordinary vessel. It was almost alive, reacting to her very thoughts and movements. "Hello," she whispered, unsure if anyone or anything was listening. A soft voice echoed through the chamber, clear and precise. It wasn't mechanical, it had a warmth to it. "Mara Ven," it said, perfectly pronouncing her name. "You have awakened the Guardian, your courage is recognized." Mara froze. The voice knew her. How could it know her name? She had never set foot on this planet before. And yet here it was, addressing her directly. A mix of fear and excitement surged through her. She had read about artificial intelligence in alien civilizations, but this felt different. It wasn't just smart, it was sentient, aware of her in a personal way. The ship projected a small holographic interface in the center of the room. Symbols and lights swirled before stabilizing into a simple map of the galaxy. A blinking dot marked her current location, and another marked a distant planet she did not recognize. Alongside it, a text message slowly formed in Basic. "Your species is chosen. Knowledge awaits. Time is short. Mara's mind raced. Chosen for what? She had always known humans were underestimated by other species. Humans were young in the galaxy, often considered fragile and naive. But stories from the Galactic Archive told of human adaptability, curiosity, and resilience, traits that other species rarely possessed. She felt a swell of pride. Maybe humans were ready for something bigger than they had imagined. She explored further, touching panels and buttons, careful not to break anything. The ship responded to her actions as if it expected her. Lights moved, doors opened, and screens displayed fragments of alien language translated to basic. The more she interacted, the more she realized. This ship had been waiting for someone like her. Someone who would not just observe but understand and act. As she walked down a long corridor, she noticed the ship's interior changing. Walls shifted subtly, creating new pathways. Mechanisms hummed and rotated, almost like the ship was learning from her, adapting to her presence. Mara felt a thrill of discovery. Humans were the first species to awaken this ancient intelligence. That thought alone made her heart pound. She reached the central chamber, a vast room filled with consoles, glowing orbs, and a holographic projection in the center. The projection formed the shape of a planet, red, with swirling clouds and signs of activity. She leaned closer, studying it. Tiny dots moved across the surface, appearing to represent cities or settlements. One dot blinked urgently, different from the others. The ship labeled it, "At risk." Mara's brow furrowed. She didn't understand what kind of risk or why the ship was showing her this, but instinct told her it was serious. Humans had always thrived in situations where others froze. She felt the familiar surge of determination that had carried her through countless missions. She would figure this out. A low vibration ran through the floor again, drawing her attention to a small console. The voice returned, calm and deliberate. "You are not just an observer. You are the key. Only a being capable of curiosity, courage, and adaptability can awaken what is needed. Others failed before you." Mara swallowed hard. Failed before her. The thought made her pulse quicken. Ancient civilizations had come and gone, unable to solve what this ship could help with. And now it had chosen a human. The weight of that realization made her feel small and powerful at the same time. She looked back at the entrance she had used to come in. For a moment, she wondered if she should leave, if this was too much responsibility for one person. But the human trait of perseverance, the drive to understand the unknown, wouldn't let her step back. She had been trained to face challenges, but more importantly, she had curiosity. And that curiosity had always defined humanity. Mara pressed another panel, and the ship responded with a soft chime. A series of symbols appeared, forming what seemed to be a message in an alien language. Her visor translated it slowly. "Prepare to learn, prepare to act, prepare to awaken the knowledge of ages. You are chosen, Mara Ven." Her breath caught in her throat. This was no ordinary discovery. She was standing in the heart of a civilization older than any human history, in a ship that had waited eons for someone like her. The possibilities were endless and terrifying. The chamber seemed to hum louder, vibrating gently beneath her feet. Lights flickered across the walls, showing patterns she could not fully comprehend. And then, in a soft but clear voice, the ship said, "Follow the path. Your journey begins now." Mara took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the room. She did not know where the path would lead, or what dangers or wonders she would face. But one thing was certain: humanity had been noticed. And for the first time, she felt the full weight of what it meant to be human in a galaxy filled with the unknown. With determination, she stepped forward, moving deeper into the ancient ship. The soft hum of its awakening surrounded her, and the blinking lights of distant stars reflected off the walls. The adventure had begun, and she knew there was no turning back. For the first time in her life, Mara realized that humans were not just survivors. They were explorers, learners, and maybe, just maybe, the hope of the galaxy itself. And somewhere deep within the ship, ancient mechanisms shifted and stirred, acknowledging her presence. The ship had waited long, but now, with a human at its core, its story, and perhaps the fate of distant worlds, was about to change forever. Mara Ven stood in the heart of the ancient ship, her eyes wide with wonder. The hum of the vessel surrounded her, low and steady, almost like a heartbeat. She could feel it in her chest, resonating with her own pulse. Every step she took seemed to awaken more of the ship's long-dormant systems. She had never seen anything like it. The panels along the walls shifted their colors, moving in patterns that were hypnotic yet purposeful. It was as if the ship was alive, and it knew her. The holographic map in the center of the room blinked again. The red planet, the one marked at risk, pulsed urgently. Mara took a cautious step closer, studying the intricate display. Tiny dots moved across the surface, representing cities, settlements, or perhaps life she could not yet comprehend. One dot blinked faster than the others, and a soft voice echoed in the chamber. Time is critical. Observation alone will not suffice. Action is required. Mara swallowed hard. Observation alone. The ship wasn't just presenting her with information, it expected something of her. She had always known that humans were considered insignificant by most alien civilizations. Humans were young, fragile, and unpredictable. But here, in this chamber, she realized humans had qualities no other species seemed to possess: curiosity, courage, and a mind willing to adapt in ways alien logic could never predict. She touched one of the floating panels. As her fingers passed over the surface, it reacted instantly, showing streams of alien data. Numbers, symbols, and colors flashed across her visor. At first, it was impossible to understand, but her translator began slowly deciphering the sequences into BASIC. Messages appeared one by one. Civilizations failed, knowledge lost, potential wasted. She had known the galaxy was vast and old, full of species older than humans by millions of years, but she had never imagined that they had encountered dangers they could not solve. And now somehow she, an ordinary human explorer, was expected to succeed where the galaxy's greatest minds had failed. "Why me?" she whispered. Her voice echoed softly in the chamber. The ship's hum grew louder and the voice replied, calm and steady, "You are not ordinary. You possess qualities that others have lost: courage, creativity, empathy. You are the key to awakening the knowledge of ages." Mara's heart raced. Empathy, courage, creativity. These were human traits, simple yet powerful. Aliens often relied on rigid logic or brute force, and many had underestimated humans for that reason. But here, in this ship, those traits were the reason she had been chosen. A mixture of pride and awe filled her. She moved deeper into the chamber, her fingers brushing across panels and consoles. Every touch seemed to trigger a response. Small mechanical arms extended from hidden compartments, repairing and activating long-dormant devices. Screens flickered to life, displaying fragments of alien history, worlds built and destroyed, technologies invented and forgotten, civilizations that had risen and vanished without warning. The ship's voice guided her. "Understand, learn, adapt. Your species carries a spark that may rekindle what has been lost." Mara studied the holographic display again. The blinking red dot represented a planet she did not recognize. Her translator rendered a name, Zyphera. She frowned. She had never heard of it in the galactic archives. Zyphera was not on any human or alien maps she knew. Yet the ship insisted it was in danger, and she was the one capable of responding. She activated another console. Streams of data filled her visor: planetary maps, population centers, environmental readings, and signals she could barely comprehend. There were no signs of alien invaders or natural disasters in a conventional sense. Yet the red dot pulsed urgently, as if crying out for help. Mara realized that Zyphera's threat was something beyond ordinary understanding, a danger the galaxy's advanced civilizations had failed to counter. The ship's voice returned. The inhabitants of Zyphera require intervention. Your ingenuity is required to awaken solutions. No algorithm alone can achieve what a curious mind can discover. Mara's fingers hovered over the console. She had always trusted her instincts in the field, but this was different. This was not an exploration mission. It was responsibility on a galactic scale. Still, the human trait of courage prevailed. She had never run from the unknown before, and she would not start now. She began experimenting with the ship's controls, moving holographic panels, connecting data streams, and observing the results. To her surprise, the ship adapted to her actions. Doors rearranged themselves to provide new access routes. Panels reorganized their displays to show the most relevant information, and small robotic mechanisms assisted her movements. It was as if the ship had been waiting for someone who could think beyond conventional logic, someone who could improvise, experiment, and explore solutions in ways rigid alien systems could not. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange inside the ship. Mara had lost all sense of it. She was absorbed in the task, moving from console to console, deciphering alien data, and slowly beginning to understand the ship's purpose. It was more than a vessel. It was a repository of knowledge, a guardian of civilizations, and perhaps even a guide for those capable of understanding it. At one point, Mara discovered a panel projecting what appeared to be a holographic representation of a star system surrounding Zyphera. She reached out and touched one of the planets. Information flooded her visor. Environmental conditions, energy flows, planetary defenses, and a strange anomaly near the surface. The anomaly was unstable, almost alive, and Mara realized with a shiver that it was the reason the planet was marked at risk. The ship's voice spoke again, gently but firmly. You must prepare. Observation alone is not enough. Intervention requires understanding. Others lack the spark. You possess it. Mara took a deep breath. Intervention. She was expected to do something, but what? How could a single human possibly influence the fate of an entire planet? Yet as she looked around the chamber, she realized the answer was simple. The ship was not just giving her data, it was giving her tools. Tools that required a mind capable of creativity, intuition, and adaptability. Tools that only a human could wield in the way the ship intended. She continued her exploration, moving toward the heart of the ship. She found a central console surrounded by panels that floated in midair. The holographic projection of Zyphera rotated slowly, showing cities, forests, oceans, and clouds. One of the blinking dots became larger, more urgent. Mara leaned closer and touched it. A wave of information hit her visor. Signals, histories, warnings, simulations. She understood, at least partially, that the planet's civilization faced a collapse not from war or disaster, but from stagnation and inaction. The galaxy's older civilizations had attempted to intervene before but had failed because they could not think like humans. They lacked improvisation, intuition, and empathy. Humans, on the other hand, were unpredictable in ways that could solve impossible problems. Mara realized the magnitude of what she had discovered. Humanity was underestimated not because it was weak, but because it was different. Aliens relied on control, rules, and rigid systems. Humans thrived on curiosity, experimentation, and moral choice. And now she was standing at the center of a machine that had been waiting for human ingenuity to awaken it fully. The ship shifted around her, mechanisms moving silently. Panels rearranged, doors opened to new corridors, and the soft hum grew louder. Mara realized she was not merely exploring, she was activating the ship's potential. It responded to her understanding, her choices, and her thought process. It recognized her as the one capable of learning, adapting, and acting. Then, a new message appeared in her visor. Proceed to the chamber of guidance. Knowledge awaits. Action is required to awaken Zyphera's defense. Mara's pulse quickened. The chamber of guidance, what could it contain? She followed the path laid out by the ship, moving through long corridors filled with shifting lights and alien symbols. The walls seemed alive, pulsing gently in rhythm with the ship's hum. Every step brought new discoveries. Floating orbs displaying alien landscapes, devices she could not name, panels showing simulations of stars, planets, and civilizations long extinct. Finally, she arrived at the chamber of guidance. It was vast and open, filled with light from hundreds of floating screens and holographic projections. The red planet, Zyphera, dominated the center. The voice spoke one last time in this chamber. Here is the knowledge you need. Observe carefully, choose wisely, and act with courage. Your species carries a spark no other possesses. Use it to awaken what has long slumbered. Mara looked around, her eyes shining with determination. She did not fully understand everything, but she did not need to. She knew humans could improvise, adapt, and find solutions where others failed. She had been chosen, and she would rise to the challenge. A final pulse of light emanated from the central projection, washing over her. For a moment, the entire ship seemed to breathe with her, as if acknowledging her presence. Mara knew that the path ahead would be difficult, but she also knew something extraordinary. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. And now, standing in the heart of an ancient, awakened ship, Mara then realized that human curiosity and courage might just change the fate of an entire world. The ship was alive, more than Mara had ever imagined. Its hum was steady now, a constant rhythm that seemed to echo her own heartbeat. She moved carefully along the corridors, touching panels, activating floating screens, and observing the alien technology around her. Each device, each light, each symbol seemed to respond directly to her presence. The ship was teaching her, guiding her, and waiting for her to make choices. Her eyes focused on the central holographic projection of Zyphera. The red planet pulsed urgently. Mara realized the situation was more serious than she had thought. The blinking dot on the planet was not just a warning, it was a call for help. But the problem was not a natural disaster or even a hostile invasion. It was something far more subtle: stagnation. The planet's systems, its cities, its energy networks, its transportation grids, were all at a standstill. The civilization there had lost momentum. They were failing not because they were weak, but because they could not adapt quickly enough. Mara leaned closer to the projection, trying to make sense of the patterns. Streams of data flowed across the surface of Zyphera: energy surges, population movements, environmental anomalies. The information was overwhelming, but the ship's interface translated it into something comprehensible for a human mind. She began manipulating the data, testing different responses, and watching how the planet reacted. To her amazement, the ship adjusted instantly. Panels moved into her line of sight, new corridors opened to let her reach previously hidden consoles, and mechanical arms emerged to assist her in connecting devices. The vessel was learning from her as much as she was learning from it. Mara felt a thrill run through her body. Humans had always excelled in situations where rules were unclear, where improvisation was needed. Here on this ship, that quality made her invaluable. "Your species is capable of insight where others fail," the ship said. Its voice was calm but confident. "Observe the anomalies, adapt, and act. Time is limited." Mara nodded. Even though the ship could not see her gestures, she understood the gravity of what it was telling her. The ship was not merely a vessel, it was a repository of knowledge, waiting for a mind capable of making sense of it. And now, for the first time in millions of years, it had found that mind. She moved to a large panel that displayed Zyphera's surface in extreme detail. She noticed clusters of buildings, networks of transportation, and energy grids that seemed unstable. She touched one of the unstable nodes, and the projection zoomed in. A city appeared in holographic detail, its citizens frozen in place like time had stopped. Red warnings flickered over the buildings. Mara could see the problem. The city's central energy core was malfunctioning, sending intermittent pulses that disrupted the entire grid. If she did not act quickly, the collapse could spread to neighboring cities. Her mind raced. She began experimenting with the ship's controls, connecting streams of data, rerouting energy flows, and testing different solutions. Every action she took produced results almost instantly. The ship adjusted its systems to match her choices, creating new pathways and access points. Mara realized the true purpose of the vessel. It was not just giving her data, it was providing her with the ability to intervene directly, to solve problems that no alien civilization could manage. Hours passed, or maybe only minutes. Time had lost meaning inside the ship. Mara was fully absorbed, moving from one holographic display to another, learning, adapting, and experimenting. She discovered that the planet's energy grids, environmental systems, and transportation networks could be influenced through the ship's interface. By directing small adjustments, she could stabilize energy flows, redirect transportation, and even adjust climate conditions in localized areas. The ship's voice spoke again. You are beginning to awaken potential. Observe the patterns, adapt your solutions, and trust your intuition. No algorithm alone can achieve what a mind capable of creativity can accomplish. Mara smiled, a mixture of pride and determination filling her chest. Humans were not predictable. That unpredictability had always been their greatest strength. Aliens often relied on rigid systems, formulas, and procedures. Humans, on the other hand, relied on intuition, empathy, and imagination. And here, on this ancient vessel, that combination made her the perfect operator. She reached a console displaying Zyphera's planetary core. Energy readings fluctuated wildly, threatening to destabilize the planet's environment. She could see the problem clearly now. The civilization had developed advanced technology, but they lacked the adaptive thinking to manage it properly. Alien civilizations had tried to assist in the past and failed, relying on rigid solutions that could not respond to unforeseen circumstances. Humans, Mara realized, could succeed because they were capable of improvisation. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls, connecting energy nodes and stabilizing flows. The planet's holographic representation began to glow softly, the red warning light diminishing. Small green dots appeared, representing stabilized systems. She felt a surge of triumph. One city had been saved, but the work was far from over. The ship seemed to respond to her success, mechanisms shifting to provide new access points and additional data. A series of panels extended into the room, forming a semicircle around her. Each panel displayed a different aspect of the planet: environmental conditions, population centers, transportation networks, and energy grids. Mara realized that to save Zyphera, she would have to address all of these simultaneously, using her human ingenuity to solve a problem that had defeated countless alien civilizations. Your species is uniquely capable of adaptive thought, the ship said. Observe carefully, act decisively, and understand the connections. The fate of Zyphera depends on it. Mara nodded again, her determination solidifying. She had always known humans were underestimated in the galaxy. We were young, small, and often dismissed. But here, in this moment, she realized humans were more than capable. They were necessary. The galaxy had relied too much on rigid intelligence, forgetting that creativity, intuition, and adaptability could achieve what cold logic could not. She moved from one panel to another, stabilizing energy grids, adjusting transportation networks, and even redirecting resources to areas that needed support. The ship responded instantly, creating new interfaces, shifting panels, and highlighting areas that required attention. Mara felt a deep connection to the vessel, as if it recognized her as a partner, not just an operator. Hours, or maybe days, passed. The red dot representing Zyphera's crisis began to fade, replaced by green signals of stabilization. The blinking warning light slowed, then disappeared. Mara felt a thrill of achievement. One planet was now on the path to recovery, all because of human curiosity, ingenuity, and courage. The ship's voice spoke again, calm and approving. You have awakened potential that has been dormant for eons. Your species carries a spark that no other possesses. Continue your work. The galaxy is watching. Mara paused, letting the words sink in. Humans were underestimated, yes. But that very underestimation was their advantage. No alien civilization could anticipate the creative solutions humans could devise, the risks they were willing to take, or the empathy they could employ to solve complex problems. And here, on this ancient vessel, those traits had allowed her to succeed where countless others had failed. She took a deep breath, her eyes returning to the holographic projection of Zyphera. The planet was stabilizing, its cities beginning to function again, its population moving freely, its energy systems balanced. Mara felt a quiet sense of pride. This was human achievement at its finest, not through brute force, not through advanced technology alone, but through intuition, creativity, and courage. The ship hummed around her, mechanisms shifting in acknowledgement. Panels rearranged themselves. Floating screens displayed congratulatory messages in Basic, and the air vibrated with a sense of accomplishment. Mara realized that the ship had not only given her the tools to save a planet, it had taught her the value of human ingenuity, showing her that humans were capable of shaping the galaxy in ways other civilizations could not. Suddenly, the holographic projection of Zyphera shifted. A new signal appeared, blinking urgently on the planet's surface. Mara frowned, her pulse quickening. The crisis was not entirely over. Something remained, hidden beneath the surface, a challenge that even the ship could not fully resolve on its own. The ship's voice spoke again, calm but insistent. You are ready. Your species is capable of solutions beyond expectation. The remaining challenge requires a mind capable of curiosity, adaptation, and courage. Act, Mara nodded. She understood now that the ship had been waiting for a human for this very reason. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries, assuming they were too young, too fragile, or too unpredictable. But that unpredictability, that creativity, that spark of courage, it was exactly what the universe needed. With renewed determination, Mara reached out to the blinking signal on Zyphera's projection. Her fingers moved over the holographic interface, connecting nodes, analyzing data, and testing solutions. The ship responded instantly, mechanisms shifting to provide new pathways, additional information, and tools she could manipulate. For the first time, Mara felt truly powerful, not because she wielded technology, but because she understood it in a way no alien civilization could. Humans were not just survivors in the galaxy, they were innovators, problem solvers, and creators. And here in this ancient ship, her species' potential was being realized fully. As she worked, the red blinking signal on Zyphera began to fade, replaced by steady green light. Systems stabilized, energy flows balanced, and the planet began to recover. Mara smiled, a mixture of relief and triumph flooding her. She had done it. The first stage was complete, and she had proven that humans could succeed where others had failed. The ship's hum softened, as if acknowledging her achievement. The voice spoke one final time in this chamber. Your species carries a spark of hope. Continue to act and the galaxy will remember your ingenuity. Humans are ready. Mara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. She had awakened potential, not just in Zyphera, but in the ship, and perhaps even in the galaxy itself. Humans were underestimated, yes, but that very underestimation was their greatest advantage. And as she prepared to face the final challenges ahead, Mara then knew one thing with absolute certainty. Humanity had only just begun to show the galaxy what it could do. The red planet Zyphera glowed in the ship's holographic projection, no longer frantic with warning signals, yet still holding a final pulse of instability. Captain Mara then stood at the center of the chamber, her fingers moving confidently over the floating controls. She had stabilized the planet's energy grids, redirected transportation flows, and improved environmental conditions. But she knew the final challenge awaited, something the ship itself could not fully manage without her human intuition. "Observe, adapt, act," the ship's calm voice reminded her. "Your species is capable of solutions beyond expectation." Zyphera's final challenge requires a mind capable of creativity, courage, and empathy. Mara nodded. She had learned that this was why humans were different. Alien civilizations, no matter how advanced, relied on fixed protocols. Humans relied on curiosity and judgment. They could improvise, think in unexpected ways, and make decisions that technology alone could not. And that was why the ship had chosen her. She turned her attention to the planet's core systems. The holographic display highlighted a series of anomalies deep beneath the surface. Energy flows were irregular, and underground ecosystems were destabilizing. These disturbances were the reason the planet's civilization had been at risk. The ship had tried to solve it in the past, but no alien intervention had succeeded. Only a human mind could integrate so many variables in real time. Mara examined the anomalies closely. She realized that the planet's energy networks and life systems were interconnected in ways both delicate and complex. A single misstep could worsen the situation, but careful adjustments could restore balance. She took a deep breath, focused her mind, and began her work. She moved her hands over the holographic controls, experimenting with energy redirection and environmental stabilization. Each action was met with immediate feedback from the ship. It displayed simulations of her interventions, showing what would happen if she adjusted certain nodes, redirected power, or modified environmental flows. Mara tested different solutions quickly, trusting her instincts and creativity. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time had no meaning here. The ship hummed softly as if encouraging her. Mara felt a deep connection to it, understanding that this ancient vessel had waited millions of years for a human capable of thinking like her. And now, she was in command. She reached a particularly complex section of the holographic projection. It represented the heart of Zyphera's capital city, where energy surges threatened to disrupt the planet's delicate balance. She studied the data carefully. Alien civilizations would have tried to brute force a solution, using rigid formulas and strict protocols. Mara realized that a direct approach could backfire. Instead, she needed to integrate multiple systems simultaneously, adjusting them in harmony. Her fingers moved swiftly over the controls. She rerouted energy flows, stabilized the environmental nodes, and activated automated repair systems. The holographic city responded instantly. Energy grids balanced, transportation resumed smoothly, and citizens in the simulation moved freely again. Mara felt a rush of triumph. One of the planet's most critical areas had been stabilized, but she knew the work was not complete. The final anomalies remained deep beneath the planet's surface. These were beyond conventional solutions. The ship had no protocol to handle them. This was why it had chosen a human. Mara had to rely on intuition and improvisation, the very traits that made humans unique in the galaxy. She adjusted her approach. Instead of trying to control every variable, she observed patterns, letting the systems respond naturally while guiding them gently. She experimented with feedback loops, subtle energy redirections, and environmental adjustments. Slowly, the planet began to stabilize at its core. The final red warning on the holographic projection faded to green. Mara exhaled, a mixture of relief and pride flooding her. She had done it. Zyphera's civilization was no longer at immediate risk. The planet's systems were balanced, its population safe, and its energy networks restored. And yet the ship's voice reminded her gently, "You have succeeded where others failed. Observe closely, adaptation continues. The galaxy watches." She smiled. Humans had been underestimated for millennia, yet their creativity, courage, and adaptability had changed the fate of an entire world. Alien civilizations had long dismissed humanity as young, fragile, and unpredictable. But that unpredictability, that very spark of human ingenuity, was exactly what the galaxy needed. Mara explored the ship further, moving through its chambers and observing the technology she had activated. She discovered archives of countless civilizations, some extinct, some barely surviving. The ship had preserved knowledge for eons, waiting for a species capable of understanding it fully. Humans had now proven themselves worthy. The holographic projection of Sci-Fi rotated slowly, showing the planet in balance. The red dot that had signaled danger was gone. Mara's hands hovered over the controls, and she realized something extraordinary. The ship had become an extension of her human mind. Its systems responded to her choices, its mechanisms adapted to her creativity, and its knowledge had amplified her intuition. Together, they had solved problems no alien civilization could manage. She felt a surge of pride. Humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the oldest, but they were adaptable. They could learn, improvise, and solve problems in ways that others could not. And here, on this ancient vessel, that human quality had changed the fate of Zyphera. Suddenly, a new signal appeared on the holographic display. It was faint, but it pulsed insistently. Mara examined it carefully. It came from a distant part of the planet's surface, a hidden location where an energy anomaly still lingered. It was subtle, but if left unchecked, it could destabilize the planet again. Mara moved quickly, analyzing the anomaly. She realized that this final challenge required not brute force or rigid calculation, but a human approach, observation, intuition, and empathy. She adjusted her strategy, letting the systems respond naturally while gently guiding them toward balance. Slowly, the anomaly stabilized. Green light spread across the holographic projection, signaling that Zyphera was finally secure. Mara felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had succeeded not through sheer power, but through human ingenuity, creativity, and courage. The ship hummed louder, mechanisms shifting in recognition of her achievement. Panels rearranged, lights pulsed, and the voice spoke one final time. "You have awakened potential that has lain dormant for millions of years. Your species carries the spark of hope. Humanity is ready." Mara looked around the chamber, her eyes shining with triumph. She realized the significance of her actions. Humans had been underestimated, dismissed, and even ignored by the galaxy's older civilizations. Yet their qualities, curiosity, courage, adaptability, had allowed them to succeed where others had failed. For the first time, Mara felt a true sense of pride in her species. Humans were not merely survivors. They were innovators, problem solvers, and creators. They had the potential to shape civilizations, restore worlds, and inspire hope across the galaxy. And here, on this ancient vessel, that potential had been realized fully. She moved back toward the ship's central chamber, where the holographic interface displayed the galaxy in its vast entirety. Stars, planets, and civilizations stretched out in every direction. The ship had shown her the importance of observation, adaptation, and action. And now, Mara realized, humans could play a role in guiding the galaxy toward a brighter future. The final message appeared in her visor. Humans are ready. The galaxy awaits their guidance. Potential has been awakened. Continue to act with curiosity, courage, and empathy. Mara smiled. She had learned something extraordinary. Humans were underestimated not because they were weak, but because they were different. And that difference, the spark of creativity and courage, was their greatest strength. As she stepped back, the ship's systems began to power down gradually, returning to a quiet hum. The holographic projection of Zyphera lingered, a testament to the success of human ingenuity. Mara knew she had changed something profound, not just the fate of a single planet, but the perception of humanity itself. She activated her shuttle and prepared to leave the planet. As she watched Zyphera from orbit, she felt a sense of accomplishment unlike any she had experienced before. Humans were no longer just observers in the galaxy. They were capable of shaping the future, saving civilizations, and awakening knowledge that had been lost for millions of years. And somewhere deep within the ship, mechanisms shifted quietly, acknowledging her presence and the species she represented. The vessel had waited for a human for eons, and now it had found one worthy. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long, but no longer. Mara took one last look at Zyphera, now peaceful and stable. A quiet voice in her mind, part ship, part understanding, spoke one final phrase. The galaxy has seen humanity. The future begins. With that, Mara then left the ancient ship, carrying not just knowledge and experience, but the undeniable proof that humans were capable of extraordinary things. She had awakened potential, solved what others could not, and proven that the spark of human curiosity and courage was the most powerful force in the universe. As her shuttle ascended into space, Mara smiled. The stars stretched endlessly before her, filled with countless worlds waiting to be understood, guided, and protected. And she knew, without a doubt, that humanity's journey had only just begun. The galaxy had been watching, and now it would never underestimate humans again.